I've got some thoughts. This video isn't sponsored by GoPro, but it is sponsored by UGREEN, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Here is the GoPro Mission 1 Pro in a nutshell. The video quality is excellent, the photo quality is pretty decent, the build quality is good, and there's loads of improvements on past GoPros. So why is this camera frustrating me? No end. I've had the GoPro for a number of months now, so it's a long-term review, and I've really taken the time to gather my thoughts. And I've tried so hard to put this into some real-world average person scenarios, like I've moved house. This is at arm's reach. I don't think I'm going to be in focus here, but we'll see. I've gone to the beach, I've taken photographs of my dog, I've taken it to a music festival, things like that. I think in recent years we've had a fracture straight down the middle in terms of what consumers want from these action style cameras, and it's more everyday people that seem to be buying them, people that want to document their life, people that want to go on holiday, rather than people that are purely into action Red Bull stuff. That's where we can see a lot of compromises in the GoPro lineup prior to this one. The GoPro Hero 13 was very small, it notoriously overheated, you couldn't have unlimited recording times. It was very much trying to sort of fit everything into too small of a camera body. So the Mission 1 Pro was releasing the GoPro of those sorts of shackles and just being like, what would this camera look like if we made it for an everyday person as well as an action enthusiast? Because it is still waterproof, it is still rugged, it still works with all the accessories, but now you have a much better processor, much better battery life, and also unlimited recording. There's no time when this is ever overheated, and I've left it doing time lapses for like hours. You get 8K open gate with 10-bit recording, you get incredible slow motion, you get really big 50 megapixel raw files. There's some cons to that which I'll go into. So it's really, on paper, it should knock the socks off every other action style camera and possibly give some entry-level mirrorless cameras a run for the money. But there are a few fatal flaws. I've been a GoPro fan for years, by the way. I started vlogging this channel with GoPros. I love them, and I'm glad to see them back and trying new things.
If I die, Emma, you can have my GoPro.
Can I still have your GoPro?
No.
I still have it.
In terms of sensor size, there's been a huge upgrade, and I hope this crude diagram shows how the GoPro Mission 1 Pro, which is a very annoying name to say by the way, compares to the competitors. It's miles bigger than the Ace Pro 2 sensor, it's bigger than the DJI Action 6 sensor, which should translate to better low light performance in both photo and video. And in terms of video in particular, I've seen huge leaps and bounds. If you put these side by side, it's night and day. Pardon the pun, the GoPro is excellent in low light. This is 60 centimeters away in linear mode without the zoom. So I have to be this far away in order to be in focus, but then I feel like I'm a little pea in the frame. We're good. This is the low light mode in my relatively dim office. I've put linear mode on the lens and I've put a 2x zoom. So that gives you a semi-normal looking frame, and I'm 60 centimeters away. So I hope this works, but I still reckon it'll look better on the Pocket 4. But I suppose it would, because I think the sensor is bigger in the Pocket 4. The last one. Dun, dun, dun. Woohoo! But the downside of having this bloody huge sensor, which affects both photo and video tremendously, is the minimum focus distance is pretty appalling. It's 60 centimeters, which is certainly longer than my arm. Wouldn't it be lovely if this was usable? Wouldn't it just be lovely? Because the setup is so small and beautiful. And I think because the lens is very action cam and ultra wide, if you want something in focus, you do run the risk of it being like a little dot on the horizon, because wide angle plus you can't get close to the lens equals a ton of blooming problems. So both cameras are side by side. They're both shooting in 4K open gate. The length of this table is 60 centimeters, which is the official minimal focus distance of the GoPro. So let's see. That is 30 centimeters. How do they look? This is 40 centimeters. And then just shy of 60 centimeters is here. And then handheld with the Ace Pro 2. and then handheld with the GoPro. But comfortably handheld, that is where I would hold it. And I don't know if that's in focus. It's impossible to vlog with at this focal length. This has been a problem through all action cameras, it's not just GoPro, but because GoPro have the biggest sensor, they have the longest minimum focus distance. Other manufacturers have tried to get around this by adding macro lenses or vlogging lenses that you can add as an attachment, and I have heard rumours that GoPro will be bringing this out. I would go so far as to say that it should have been a day one accessory and it should have been included in the box because it is so problematic without it. My life before getting a NAS was cables, insecurity, confusion, a mess of hard drives. It was not fun. While a NAS might be low on people's priorities compared to a shiny new camera or a shiny new GoPro, I think in terms of what it adds to your setup as a creator is worth its weight in gold. NAS stands for Network Attached Storage, if you didn't know. It just means you have your own little cloud physically in your house on your own network and you can access it from anywhere in the world. I've been using a UGREEN NAS now for a long while and I've got it to like a very impressive 49 terabytes. Everything I do is backed up onto that. It automatically backs up my phone even. So when I'm out and about or traveling and I think, oh, I need this clip for something, I can literally go on my phone or my laptop and access it as though I'm at home. This model is DXP 48000 Pro. It has the 13th generation Intel i3 processor and 4 bays of storage. And the UGREEN ones in particular are super easy to set up because like I don't really know what I'm doing and I've got mine set up absolutely fine. I've got links in the description and thank you to them for sponsoring this video. Let's get back to ranting about the GoPro. Look at some of these photos. I'm not massively close to the subject and the subject is blurry and the background is sharp. The worst one actually was when I was taking some video of these starlings. I wanted to try the slow motion. It's not like I was in the birds' faces overly. It wasn't too bad, but none of them are in focus. And the slow motion is wonderful. You just have to really pick your battles with it and choose the right subject at the right distance. So the ultra slow-mo, 900 frames a second in HD or 250 in 4K, utterly brilliant. And the whole reason that I'm interested in this line of cameras, to be honest, is because there's a micro four thirds mount version coming soon. And I think that that will solve a lot of the problems because we can put whatever lens we want on it. Yes, it's manual focus. It really removes the action cam element entirely. It just becomes a tiny cinema camera. Using the slow motion with a selection of like really high quality lenses would be superb. But I don't want to be too down. I am a GoPro fan. What do GoPro do excellently? They have incredible stabilization. They've always been the top of the game, in my opinion, in the action camera realm, and there's no difference here. If you walk with this camera, it looks like a gimbal. They also pioneered the horizon lock, which I love on the Ace Pro 2. And I do love the addition of more standard mounts. So you have a quick release at the bottom, which is lovely. But underneath that as well, there's just a standard tripod mount. So you don't have to use all the GoPro accessories. You can just lob it on a normal mini tripod or use it like a traditional camera. So it's the best of both worlds in terms of connectivity. I also really like the physical upgrades. I like that the buttons are bigger. I like that you have a little lens hood built in. And as always with GoPro, they were the first brand to implement this. I think all of the lens covers are replaceable. If something gets scratched, you can replace it. And in terms of the slow-mo, I cannot emphasize how slow it is. The 900 frames a second gives you a 10-second burst that becomes over a 5-minute clip. I mean, if you find the right subject at the right distance in the right lighting, you can get some insanely good results with this. The frustration in general is the minimum focus distance. It's tripped me up so many times, but I've seen a lot of quirks and flaws in the photography side, which is, I assume, what most people are interested in if you're watching this on my channel. First of all, we have the new cage. The point of this cage is to give you a camera-like experience and a tactile experience, and it's the most limp, wet shutter button I've ever had the displeasure of using, so it's not pleasant to use at all. It's just horrible. Much more satisfying. This squishiness. It's a small thing, but it's literally the thing that connects you to this as a photography camera. When you've got the cage on the Ace Pro 2 and a nice little clicky shutter button, it feels tactile, it feels real. With this one, because I turn the sound off on everything, I literally have to check that the photo's been taken because it's just like this soft, unsatisfying mush. More than that, that's a small thing comparatively. I'm getting blurry blooming photos. Look at this selfie, right? It's hardly an action shot, no one's moving. It was the brightest, sunniest, heat wavy day of the year. Why is it blurry? Well, quite a lot of them are blurry at the edges in particular. They're marketing this as having like a 50 megapixel sensor. So the idea is that you can punch in and crop and really utilize all that resolution. But if the lens isn't sharp enough, then you're cropping into a bad photo and you can't crop in as much as you would like. And that's something that I've run into again and again and again. On the photo side, the biggest flaw by far, and my goodness, I really hope this gets fixed in a firmware update. It needs to get fixed in a firmware update. You can shoot RAW, but only when the lens is on the ultra wide setting with no crop. And again, I think the idea is you can crop in, but you can't crop in if it's soft. If you do punch in, if you do switch to linear mode, you cannot shoot RAW. And that completely wipes out what I use action cameras for photography. The Ace Pro 2, I keep coming back to it because it's the one that I use the most. You have a 2x crop. You have linear mode and you can shoot RAW in that. And that gives you maybe, I think, a 28mm sort of equivalent, which is very usable and very standard. You can use that as a camera out and about and it's wonderful. It's very traditional and you can edit them like normal. With the GoPro, if you want to punch in at all in camera, you are left with JPEG only, which I think is inexcusable and unusable. And when you pair that with the soft, squishy, wishy shutter, it's just not a good photography experience at all. The RAW files are very nice. When you get your subject sharp, you can pull these back in tricky lighting conditions, you can colour grade them very well. If you're really into ultra wide photography, you'll obviously have a great time with this camera because that's the only thing you can blooming use it for. I'm just really disappointed, right? I was expecting this to be the Ace Pro 2 on steroids because it's 3 times the price, the sensor is bigger, and I think GoPro, you know, they're the OGs in this space, so they should have a lot to sort of shout about. But what I've found between the two, despite the Ace Pro 2 being miles cheaper, the accessories are better, the RAW files are better because you can crop in, you've got different lenses that you can use. It's just a much more thought out photography experience. This is several generations behind. And until they sort out the RAW problem, if it's been fixed by the time this video comes out and someone in the comments says you can shoot RAW in linear mode now, you can shoot RAW if you punch in 2 times, I will pin the comment and be so happy. But as it stands, it's such a crippled photography experience because you can only shoot RAW in ultra wide mode. It was one of those moments, right? I was on the train heading into Liverpool and I was getting ready to go out for street photography. I couldn't find RAW in the menu and I'm like, I checked the spec sheet, it does shoot RAW, why can I not put this camera in RAW? And then I realised by default, as soon as I pick this camera up, because I'm sane and I'm not a bloody snowboarder, I take it out of ultra wide mode and put it in linear mode and it blanks it out in the menu. So once I realised that, I was fuming. And I've also found if you do use the 2 times punch in and shoot JPEG only, that they are unacceptably soft as well. If you're going to rely on 50 megapixels to be able to punch in, you have to have a damn good sharp image. And it's just not there in my experience yet. And while I've got my ranty pants on, again, there's a lot of things in this camera that just feels like first gen. The Quick app is the worst app I've used for these sort of action styles, and I'd lob like the pocket cameras in here. Aside from it being a billboard for the cloud service, which I don't want and will never use, once you've got rid of all those pop-ups, I'm yet to actually be able to export a video from this. And you cannot import the RAW files as well. So if you want to take this out on a holiday, take photographs in your crippled RAW mode where you can only shoot ultra wide, you can't even put them on your phone to edit them. I feel like in 2026 the least that we should do is be able to have access to our own RAW files. I hate this hand holding that companies do, go, oh, you know, the consumers don't want to use RAW files, that's for people that know what they're doing on a computer. No, I want to use Lightroom mobile, I want to use Luminar mobile, I want to be able to edit my own blooming photos because I don't trust that the JPEGs are going to be good enough. This camera just gave me like rage at lunch. I was just eating my cauliflower wings and I thought, do you know what? I'll pop some RAW files on socials like a good little content creator, and I connected it to the Quick app and it won't import RAW. Is this 2001? And then I thought, okay, I can't do that. I'll at least upload some video. So I imported like a little clip of me eating dinner or whatever, but it's in log. And in the app, there's no way to Rec 709 the log. You can lob crappy filters over the top, but the skin tones are terrible and it's not saturated enough because you need a conversion to like a standard profile before you tinker with the log. So you can't edit the log profiles in the app. And then the little sprinkling on top, I went to export it anyway, even though I looked like a piece of old Play-Doh, it wouldn't export. In fact, I've had this camera for over a month now, and every time I've tried to export a video, it's crashed. I thought at the beginning it was pre-production problems, but I've updated both now, the camera's out, and I'm still having the same problem. So the Quick app, aside from spamming you with like the cloud service adverts at every given opportunity, is utterly useless. You'd be better off taking an SD card out with you, like an SD card reader, and just doing it the old-fashioned way. I'm personally fuming at that because the whole point of these little devices, like I use the Ace Pro 2 or the Pocket 3 or the Pocket 4, is to sort of quickly capture stuff when you're out and about and put them on socials. You know, that's a key element to these smaller devices. And that's just not usable. It's completely broken on GoPro. I didn't mean to choose violence today. I just think because I had such high hopes for it. I love the Ace Pro 2, but it's not great in low light, and I've said that a million times. Having the bigger sensor on this GoPro, I was just hoping that it would be like that experience, but better. And it's not. So let's talk about price. The Mission 1 Pro is currently £599 in the UK. And obviously in terms of spec, it's stunning. I love the video quality, I love the colour grading. You know, I've talked about good things as well as frustrating things, but for 600 beans, man, there's loads that you could buy. You could buy 2.5 Ace Pro 2s and all the accessories you would ever need. And it's the same story with the DJI one as well. The DJI Action 6 is around £400 at the time of filming this video. So you could buy one of those and a ton of accessories and have a good experience, if not a better experience than this. And I think the biggest problem with the price point being so high is you're not really pitting yourself against action cameras now, you're pitting yourself against mirrorless cameras. And you could pick up like an APS-C Sony mirrorless camera for £600 and create an entire YouTube channel with it. And you could maybe invest in a wide angle lens and do everything that this does and more. My personal pick for the money, and I've spoken about this camera a lot on here, is the PowerShot V1. You can pick this up for around £600 on the used market, the same blooming price as the GoPro, and you do have the ultra wide because it has a 16mm lens, but it goes all the way to 50mm and it shoots RAW the whole time. It's not an action camera, it's a bit apples to oranges, but when you consider that most people will be using the GoPro not for action, you really have to bring these sorts of products into the conversation. Another option, the Pocket 4, man. I've been using this loads for vertical content. I just stick it over there and do some pretty vertical content with it, and it's great for out and about stuff. It's cheaper. Having said all that, I think if you stuck a Micro Four Thirds mount on it like they're planning to do, a lot of that stuff doesn't matter anymore. So I'm holding out hopes for that. Don't think the Mission 1 Pro is the middle ground action camera, vlogging camera for me. By far the most frustrating thing with this camera is the quality of it is objectively superb. The sensor is great, the video quality is great. It's by far the best sort of action style camera that I've used in low light. Absolutely wonderful. 50 megapixels to play with, loads of information in the RAW files. It just needs to be implemented a little bit more sensibly throughout. The app needs to be better. You need to have RAW in more modes. You need to be able to change the zoom a little bit easier, and you blooming need that macro lens. That's the biggest thing. I have heard that they are making one and they blooming need to hurry up with it. I would say that a close-up or macro lens is absolutely essential for this setup, and at the moment I would go so far as to say as it feels like an unfinished product without it, because it's really, really limiting. Like, I wanted nothing more today than to come into town and vlog with this and use it as I am using this Canon. And I just can't, unless I've got a place to stick it a mile away on a tripod, in which case I'll be a pea in the frame, because I'll be so small. I'm gonna try that in a minute. Like, it's just not feasible. Unless you've got Stretch Armstrong arms, it's just not usable at the moment. And I'm sorry if this is really, really negative. As I say, the quality is unbelievably good. If you can cope with the different things that you have to work around, it's amazing. I'm just so critical because it has the potential to be so good. And those are often the most frustrating devices of all. It's such a weird proposition, and I wanted to love it a lot more than I did. And I've held off doing this video because I wanted to like bring as much value to the table and be like, well, actually, this annoys me, but this is good. And I've just found that the more I've used it, the more it's annoyed me. So to conclude, hardware, it's the best GoPro ever made. It knocks the socks off specs-wise so many other cameras in this space. With a few tweaks, it could be magnificent, but I don't think it's quite there yet. But I'm holding out hope as a GoPro fan that with a few accessories and a few firmware tweaks, we can really get the most out of this incredible hardware. Fingers crossed.